Back on page 38 and 39, we completed our lecture notes for the categories organizer. Remember, whole to part. We always look at what's the big idea, that's the whole, and then the part, or how many different parts do I need to tell you about that big idea. In this case, the whole was farmers raise crops and livestock. So what are the parts? I need to tell you about crops and livestock. On page 40, we have the sequence organizer. Here's the top. That's our big idea. So this big idea was all year long on the planet Earth, butterflies go through a life cycle that prove they're a living thing. That's our big idea. Where did I get that big idea from? I went to the science standards and saw that we're looking at life cycles, and life cycles are one way that scientists prove something is living. That's one of their ways they test for whether something is alive or not. So we have all year long on the planet Earth, butterflies go through a life cycle which prove they're a living thing. I could go back after I have my big idea and I can mark my punctuation. So all year long on the planet Earth, butterflies go through a life cycle that prove they're a living thing, period. So again, it's always nice to put the punctuation on the organizer. It helps the students understand the beginning and ending of sentences, and it makes more sense than to apply that afterwards. We're going to look at the body. So our big idea here was butterflies go through a life cycle. So I'm always going to say, okay kids, we had our big idea, check. Now what do we need? Information, information, information about the big idea. Now that we have the big idea for the butterfly, now what we need is information, information, information about the butterfly. Let's find out how we organize this information. We've already done whole to part when we did the farmer. So we had the farmer who grows crops and who raises crops and livestock. And we had two parts. They didn't have to be in any order. But now I'm asking the kids, we're talking about a butterfly's life cycle. Can I put this in any order, or does it have to be in order? It has to be in order. That's right. So that's going to be our sequencing organizer. And I go over to my page. So now I'm over at the organizer and I draw two lines. So this is blank. I'm showing you now what I did. This is one that's filled in. I drew two lines and then I said this box is my beginning, this is my middle, this is my end. So when we look at the beginning, middle, and end of a butterfly's life cycle, we'll do so in these boxes. Now I have to figure out how do I fill in these boxes. I had whole to part for categories, but my hand signal for a sequence is the following. Beginning, end, what happens in the middle. So let's do that hand signal again. Beginning, end, what happens in the middle. I do this hand signal to show kids how to fill in the organizer. What are we going to fill in first? The beginning. Then what? We're going to label the end, and then we're going to tell what happened in the middle. Why am I filling in the organizer that way? Because I found too many children get off topic and they can't sequence when they start trying to put the information on an organizer. They get lost. So if you can go back to your organizer and have beginning, middle, end, but fill in the beginning, label the end to remind yourself where we're heading, then fill in the middle steps, and finally go back to the end and complete the ending, then you're going to be able to stay on topic and have all the information you need. Let's go ahead and see what I did. We said all year long, butterflies go through a life cycle that prove they're alive. Now, what are we going to fill in first? The beginning. So I went to the beginning and I talked about how they start their life as an egg, and out from the egg comes the caterpillar. So we wrote egg, we drew a little caterpillar, I wrote oval, put a little drop box with an oval there because it was a vocabulary word. That happens to be a leaf with a bunch of eggs on it. So I drew some pictures and some information there. Then we went back and we orally rehearsed. We take the ideas. So these are our ideas with keywords and pictures. This is the information about its life cycle, the beginning of it. I'm putting that information down. Now I'm going to orally rehearse in order to make that sentence. So we have all year long on the planet Earth, butterflies go through a life cycle that prove they're alive. They start their life as an oval-shaped egg. I'm just looking at the information and using this information in order to make a sentence. I could have said butterflies, but we know the redundant police will come and arrest us. So what's another word that I can use? They. So we'll start our sentence with they. They start their life as oval-shaped eggs. We filled in the beginning. Now what are we going to do? We're going to jump to the end. And we're only labeling the end. So we went to the end, we wrote a little E here, and then we just drew a little butterfly. Once we have our butterfly there, we know, okay, we're going from an egg and we're ending at a butterfly. Say, what happened in the middle? And we're making our hands go like that because we don't know how many steps are in the middle. This time there were only 2. So I'm going to say to the kids, okay, let's draw 1. This is the first thing that happened in the middle. And then I'm telling them the information, how they come out as a tiny caterpillar and then they get really big because they grow because they're eating everything they can see. So we draw the picture, we go back, we rehearse it, and we add that information. Now that we have our beginning, we labeled the end, then we went back and we sequenced all of the different steps in the middle. So in this case, there were only 2 steps in this life cycle from the beginning and end steps. So we have our beginning egg, end butterfly, and in the middle, we drew a little caterpillar that was eating, so it grew. And then it built a chrysalis where it changed inside. Again, every time I add information, what do? Go back, rehearse it. We can add punctuation if we need to. And then we finally go to the end box where we added even more information, orally rehearsed it. If my kids are not writers yet, this is just an oral rehearsal information where they're just orally rehearsing it back and forth as partners, and I walk around and I'm helping children who need a little help with the language. If kids can say it and they also can write, then I tell them go ahead and start writing. And this is what happens. Over here we have a sample of a student who happens to be a 1st grader and a 2nd language learner who wrote out the following. A butterfly has an interesting life cycle that proves it is a living thing. The egg is an oval shape. The caterpillar eats and eats. After it eats, it grows. After it grows, it builds a chrysalis. After 21 days, it emerges as a butterfly. What a wonderful paragraph. This child obviously has the concepts, understandings, has grasped the vocabulary, the language, and now has written it into a simple paragraph. This is fabulous. And now I can go into my life cycle unit. She has a lot of information and she's been writing already. I don't have to wait till the end of the unit in order to teach a writing lesson. I can do writing all throughout my unit of study in science and social studies. Now we're going to go on and we're going to do our last piece of expository type of writing. That's for front loading and for language development, and that's the content diagram. So let's turn to page 41 in order to do a content diagram.